I tagged her in my most recent post, but if you guys haven't seen that video, here's my new besom. I love her so much. Yes. Isn't she beautiful? And green is one of my favorite colors. I know most witches navigate towards purple, and I do love purple, but I also love green. So if you're looking for broom, it's like ritual flower or flower ritual. And she is also broom witch. I keep my, I don't know if you guys can see this. I keep the bristles up on my besoms, and that is not for the typical reason that most witches do. So a lot of witches keep their brooms up like that because they believe that it's protective that way. I don't believe that was something that was done years ago, and I practice the old ways combined with a modern twist. But you know, as witches, we all can practice however we choose, especially if we're eclectic and not Wiccan and in a specific coven. And so I have 5 cats, and all of my brooms are made of broom corn, and my cats have taken an affinity to broom corn. I've had the brooms around my house, bristles down, for a very long time. And a new cat came into the house. I named him Salem. He's a black cat. He's so beautiful. And Salem likes to eat the broom corn. And it has made the other cats realize that they like to eat broom corn as well. And so my brooms are basically a threat of getting destroyed by my cats now because they all want to eat the broom corn. So I flipped them all up. And in my practice, flipping a besom up, actually, I do that specifically if I'm in a circle and I'm holding my besom in the circle, I will usually hold it besom up during the ceremony. I'm bristles up. And that's because with the bristles up, she represents the goddess, the divine mother. So for me, that new concept of putting your bristles up to protect you, it just doesn't sit with me. But recently I've had to start putting on mine with the bristles up because my cats will not stop eating them. Anyway, so we've got a few people on now. How are you guys feeling? Everyone's kind of quiet around putting their emotions in, I'm noticing. All right, so I'm just gonna talk today a little bit about what has come into my reality. And this is something that a lot of witches don't realize is a thing, but when you are a practicing witch and the way of the witch is woven through your entire reality, I say, you know, my life is a spell in motion, and I believe being a witch, that truly sums it up. Your life is a spell in motion. Everything is done with intent. And because of that, you know, there is a concept. Let's go here first. There's a concept that witches do spells, right? And witches do spells. But often the witch does not need to cast an actual spell to manifest their desires, because when your life is a spell in motion, you align energetically with what you desire, and that comes to you. So I have an example of this week because it happened actually really, really quickly. And the example is that I was talking to my friend Stella, and I was talking about how online I get emails daily with people wanting to collaborate, but these these collaborations aren't in line with who I am. One of them I got excited about this week because it was an app for witches, and when I first glanced at it, I was like, oh, this could be exciting, like tarot cards, astrology, like this sounds really cool. However, the one line that got me was, you can use AI as your oracle. And so Stella and I started talking about this, and it was like, oh no, we are not going to replace the witch, the oracle, the original oracle, the priestess with AI. Like, your body is the oracle. We don't need to be depending on AI. During this conversation, I was like, oh no, I'm not going to take that opportunity. Like, no way. Not worth it, no matter how much the money, because it goes against everything I'm about as a witch. And so at the end of that statement, I said, I am calling in more aligned opportunities and aligned friendships in my area, because I just feel like where I live, I have a really big online community, and I love that. Nothing will ever replace that. But I would love to work with more women like me in aligned opportunities. There's this little gnat that is chasing me around. Looks like I have a shadow on the side of my face. Anyway, so I say that, and two things happen the next day. One of the women in the coven posts something about a crystal, and she's holding the crystal to her heart. And I've been thinking about this since, because looking at the crystal, and she's on here today. So I love you. Hope it's okay that I talk about your story, because it's been sitting on my heart. And I was wondering to myself after her post, like, I was looking at the duality of crystals in our modern world, because I learned when I owned my own boutique and I was ordering in crystals that so many of the things that I was ordering were actually saying, they had tags on them that would say made in China. And this began a search for me on what it meant, what was the difference between a lab made crystal, what is a real crystal, what is the differences energetically, and somebody's saying right now, yes, some are fake. Not just some are faked, a lot of them are not real. Now, when I say not real, they're a stone of some sort, but they're not probably what you think they are. And we know this mostly. I started to realize over time that the price and the type of stone, knowing the type of stone and what that stone's value is, often reflected if it was real or not real, because some can look really real to people and really beautiful. And other times you just don't know. And here's the thing, I do have stones that I wear. I have this black ring I wear that I know is not a particular stone of any type. It may be some form of agate, but any stone is a touch piece, right? And what we give power to has power. It holds that power. It's almost like you're dedicating or consecrating a tool as a witch. Like you have a wand, you dedicate it and consecrate it for a specific purpose. That's kind of what getting a stone and looking up the meaning and believing in that meaning does for you. It's like you gave the power to it. And the duality that I'm looking at here is that, yes, a real true stone can energetically bring a lot of power into your life. But it brings more power into your life through your intention, what you believe is true. And I haven't talked a lot about this in the past because crystals are not my specialty. And I realized when I owned my store, like, this is a really specialized path, right? So this woman, she she posts about getting a stone from a friend, and she holds it to her heart and believes that it heals her, right? And she's from that dang gnat. She's from, okay, it's gone. She's from a Christian background, and I am as well. And so I do know people who have that background will often, and even just in our patriarchal society, who haven't gone to church, it's like we have this habit, because patriarchy is about interdependence. And as humans, we are tribal creatures. And so to some extent, it's in our biological DNA to need community and tribe and things outside us to survive, right? So there's multiple levels on this thinking as well. But I realize her traits of this specifically, because I had them when I left the church at first, was wanting to give power away to everything outside of me until I really embraced that deity, source, goddess, the universe, whatever you call your creator, is inside you and part of you. And because it's part of you, the way you learn in church to look at God or ask for God for things, you're actually you need to be looking within, or acknowledging that this power comes from within you and not outside you. And so the urge is, when you're leaving religion, or really programmed through patriarchy, is that you want to give your power to other things, and then it makes you think you have to hold on to those things. Like, I need my necklace, my pendant to be powerful, and if it's off me, I can't lead this class. I had an actual stone I wore, a labradorite, for years, that I actually started to have that relationship with. And then I took the necklace off one day, and my cat chewed the cord, and I couldn't ever wear it again, which that really taught me that I was, in that moment, even though I knew better, giving my power away to that necklace. The power of the stone actually assisted me. It was assisting me, but it was the power that I was giving that crystal that made it powerful. My belief, right? And so that's what I'm getting at here, is that our belief around what these crystals can do for us actually is amplifying the power of that stone. The power of a real stone, yes, it can truly give you support and really, like, be a life-changing thing when you embrace that support. But that support is just accelerating or magnifying what's already within you. So this woman held the stone to her heart. It calmed her down. Eventually her headache went away. But what she didn't realize was that was her healing abilities that were doing this. And that she had so much belief in that stone after she read what it meant, that it, over a period of 20 minutes, I believe is what she said, she felt so much better. Now, the thing is that, to me, what that said is there's a healer that exists within her that requires her to believe in herself more than she believes in whatever it is outside of her, whether that be a besom, a crystal, or anything like that. Now, another part of this is that in the conversation, I forget what she said, but it was something about, I have these abilities, but she doesn't put much into them, right? And then that got me on this wavelength of how we see a lot of people in the spiritual community really leading with all of these abilities they have. And people actually come to me through email and say, can you tell me what my ability is as a witch? If I'm really a witch, what is my ability? And it's like, it's not my job to tell you what your abilities are. But we've come to this culture where we require validation outside of us from people. And so we see people in the spiritual community doing this. Like, you meet them and they're like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, this is my ability, that's my ability. And it's like they don't believe in themselves, and so they're also asking for validation outside of themselves. And so within her comment, I knew there was some subtle trust in herself that she had, because she wasn't leading with that, right? And so it's like there's a seed planted there. But what we are needing to develop as humans, as especially as witches, and it's so important, it's more important than any spell you're going to do. It is more important than even casting a circle. And that is healing your own wounds enough that you can come into your body and create a relationship with that part of you that is your creator, whatever you call that. Most witches will call that goddess. We usually, as witches, honor the divine feminine aspect of Source as our creator. However, it also, many witches believe in a lord and a lady, and honoring both the masculine and the feminine. The original pagan way was to have both a representation of the mother, and then that's where you see the horned god or the green man, giving dual or balance to both masculine and feminine by honoring both, right? So anyway, back to, as a witch, your life is a spell in motion, and you don't need to actually do a spell. You're speaking things out loud, oftentimes with intent. And it's like, in that moment when I was telling my friend, I'm calling in aligned connections, right? And that was the same day I started talking about crystals. I get a DM, and I will scroll through on another platform, IG, and I'm scrolling through there's different mailboxes, and so I try to hit each mailbox, because if I don't follow you back, it'll put you in a different mailbox, and sometimes these are people in my coven, and so, but I also get a lot of crazy email, like a lot of crazy DMs from people sending awful pictures that they think will attract me to them. So I'm very I kind of look for keywords or a feeling that makes me stop, or like something that seems familiar. Well, that same day, I get an email from Enchanting Earth Co. And I look at it, and she said, hi, introduces herself. She's has a crystal store in Sedona. And I'm like, I don't respond to it. I keep going because I don't know her. And then later that day, it kept coming back to me, her message. And so I went back to the message and responded. Now, here's the thing about me and Sedona, you guys. I have a deep love for Sedona's land. I've lived in this area of Arizona since I was 5 years old. What Sedona used to be when I was a kid is totally different what it is now. There's an entire uptown area, reminds me of Salem, where it's like, a spiritual person's dream shopping trip, right? There's crystal stores up and down the street, 2-story buildings with crystals on both floors, and psychics and mediums everywhere. And it's become such a hot tourist spot that what I have noticed is that most stores and most places you go to, and I don't want to generalize because I do know there's some really amazing people there, but the most I just really don't shop there, except for there's one place I go to, and it's a trading post. If you were to look at me as a person, you'd think I'd go into like the most bougie uptown stores where the most expensive crystals are and stuff. And I don't. I always find myself at Crystal Creek Trading Post. And my a friend of mine who is Native American, speaks the language, like supports. She's not from the Native American communities here. She's from one in, I think it's South Dakota. Anyway, she goes to this one particular space because she knows like the different things that you find there, animal bones and stuff, like they're used in the most honored way that they can be. And I am vegetarian, have been for 13 plus years. So I'm very weird as a witch about using anything connected to animals. And she's really, I have a deep connection to animals. And she's always pushed me to use these items, which I've been doing more because she said you have such a connection to them. Having that touchstone, again, kind of like a crystal, is connecting you energetically to the life of that animal that it lived, right? And so you have to be careful because if we all flood in wanting coyote bones or deer bones or something like this, people start killing these animals to provide the need, the demand, and people want to make money off it. So that's why I'm very careful as a witch to only use things that generally come to me. I don't go seek them out to buy them. But if I need to buy things, I go to specific places because I also know in Sedona, not everything, but a lot of what you're getting in Sedona is fake crystals, even if they're charging you $300 for a stone. And so it's interesting, so on the same day that this girl asked me this question, she wasn't even asking a question, she put this post out about this crystal, and I was like responding to it, telling her this was the power within her. It wasn't the stone. I could see that the stone wasn't actually real by the way that it looked. And I wanted her to realize that yes, it was grounding because it's from the stone kingdom. So no matter what stone you get, fake or not, I do want to let you guys know it is from this earth. It is grounding, and whatever energy you give to it, it will amplify that energy. And it's working with the stone kingdom. And the stone kingdom, for me, the way I understand the stones outside, the crystals we wear, they have been on this planet since the beginning of time. They are the timekeepers. No matter if it's just a pebble in your yard, it is something that has existed here longer than humans have. And so they're record keepers. They are energetic magnifiers. And no matter if they are what you think they are or not, they hold power. And they gain more power, even if I went in my front yard here in Arizona, we fill our yards with rocks because there's just not enough water to keep lawns and stuff like that. And so we fill our yard with rocks. And if I went out there and picked up a stone and held it to my heart, it would do the same healing thing for me that if I picked up some stone that I have sitting over here. Now, there may be a little bit of a different energetic twist if I have a real stone and I'm holding it to my heart, because the specific stones carry a specific frequency, even a pebble does. And as humans right now, we need grounding. We have lived for thousands of years under patriarchy, which has brought us so far up and out of our bodies that we are not connected to our body. We don't know how to listen to our body. We don't know how to listen to our emotional cues. And we are all living in a state of fight or flight 90% of the time. Now, I start chatting with this woman, and she's offering to have my retreat sisters go to her space, and she seems really nice. I look at her page, and I'm like, Well, this weekend I needed to go to the Crystal Creek Trading Post, and so my daughter was going to come with me. I thought, let's make it a mother-daughter day. We'll go do some shopping. And so I told this girl, I would love to come by and see your store, because I don't want to say I'm snobby about Sedona, because, you know, I support all people doing what they're doing, but I have seen a lot of people take people, fake readings, things like that, it just, even to my retreat sisters, I'm always very, like, I want to support the people that have businesses there, but at the same time, I don't know who's real and who's not real. But there was something about this woman drawing me to her, and it felt, with the question that I was answering in the morning, and then this woman contacting me about crystals, and one of her posts on her page, the one she has pinned, is fake crystals versus real crystals. And if you guys want to follow her, it's Enchanting Earth Co. She's on TikTok, and she's on other platforms as well. She does lives on IG. I can't say that word because TikTok gets upset. Anyway, I'm like, I'm going to go to the Crystal Creek Trading Post, and then I'm going to go to her crystal store and check it out. So we go there, and I just want to say I was completely impressed with how quickly the universe aligned something in my life for me. And I believe I was impressed with her sincerity and her integrity in the craft. She only moved to Sedona a year ago. She's from Kansas, and I had a neighbor that grew up in Kansas, and she used to always tell me, like, if people knew you in Kansas, they'd be so afraid of you. And I don't know if Kansas is in the Bible Belt. I believe it is, though, because the way this neighbor of mine talked about it, it was like, I was like, wow. So this crystal girl, I'm like shocked that you grew up in Kansas. And she's like, oh, I was just always known as the weird crystal lady. And this store, it has so many beautiful pieces of jewelry and rings. Okay, so and her integrity around only selling stones that are true stones, so that the energy is impeccable. And I was really impressed with her integrity around this, and wanting to share with people that message, because she believes these stones are so valuable, and I believe that too. And what I loved about her store was she has all these glass cases of all these beautiful rings, and then she has this wall with all these, like, they're more like simpler necklaces and stuff. So there is a wide variety. There is rings there from like $100, I'd say, all the way up into the thousands. But then also she has this entire wall where all these like crystal necklaces, they have tiny little beads on them, are like $13. So there is something for everyone there. If you wanted a particular dainty little stone necklace that's something maybe you couldn't afford to buy in a big ring, then you would be able to buy it in this like tiny dainty version. So I love that she catered to all aspects. Now, as I was looking at the rings, I thought, oh, I'll buy a ring from her while I'm here. And she showed me her space in the back room, which she plans on making a meditation room. And I really vibed with her, and knew the moment I walked in there, I was like, she just had this gentle, sweet energy about her, but also a accelerated, powerful, I don't even know what to call it, like light energy. I didn't get to ask her if she identifies as a witch, but I did look at her website last night, and she has a picture of herself in a witch hat. So I'm assuming that she is a witch. And the universe aligning this opportunity. So with me stating out loud to my friend, I'm calling in aligned opportunities. Then after I spend the morning like thinking about this girl in my coven and talking to her about crystals, and wishing that I had more information or education to be able to help the women in my virtual coven more to work with crystals. But it's not my specialty. Like, I know enough to work with them, but they aren't my specialty. That afternoon, somebody reaches out to me, and by Saturday, I'm aligning with somebody that is in, just connecting and aligning. And I believe I have never once, I've been hosting retreats for 6 years, I have never once taken the ladies to a store anywhere in Sedona, if that tells you anything about how I feel about Sedona. There is one place there, I can't remember the name of it, where I do believe they have good crystals, and they've had some good readers there. But other than that, and the Crystal Creek Trading Post, I don't go anywhere. And I don't mean to sound snobby or not supportive of people in Sedona. I have such a respect and integrity for my own craft. I'm very, very picky, and I'm very, very, I shouldn't call it picky. I'm just like, energetically, I won't take people somewhere that I don't vibe with. And I believe I'm going to bring the ladies on the last day of Practical Magic Retreat in the fall to this girl's store, because she has offered to give them a class on crystals and do one of her guided meditations for crystals. And she'll open up the store for us privately, so no one else will be in there. And she has this whole back meditation space that she's creating. And so I really feel in alignment with this. Now, also something she did that just was like, this girl really is in alignment with who I am. She gifted me 2 rings. So I bought 2 rings from her, and she gifted me this beautiful ring. It's on my hand. Can you guys see it? So if you look at the side of it here, can you see that, or is it blurring? So there's like one thing I like, I love this about her rings, is they're all adjustable. So you don't have to like pick a certain size. In many of her rings, is that blurring? You can see there's a raven, a pentacle, and moon phases on the side there. She gifted me this ring, okay? Then I bought this ring. This is a new stone for me. I can't even remember the name, but I was so drawn to it. It looks black, but there's like a green to it. And so I purchased this one because I'm really drawn to it. And then so she gives me this stone, and then I was telling her, you know, what's interesting about your store is I'm never drawn to any pink or white stones usually. And for some reason, I was drawn to some of the pink and white stones over here. And she's like, oh, show me. So we go over and I show her this stone. Now, you can see it's white with pink on the corner. And she tells me I still can't, I think it's like, I can't remember. I'm not even gonna try to, I wanna say it's like Selena or something. Anyway, she says this stone has a lot of power to it. So a lot of kings and queens in the past would think they would put rubies in their crowns, and really what they were putting in their crowns was this stone. And so she said it's a stone of royalty and power. And anyway, I'm like, I'm just so drawn to it that I'm like, okay, actually I'm gonna buy that one too. So I go and I purchase that, and then I am looking on the counter at what she first, one of the rings she first offered to give me was a stone that looks, it's shaped as a cat head, and it's a garnet. And the ring is $555. So I'm like, I'm not gonna let her give that to me. So I who am I to say I'm gonna let her? I should just let, my friend Stella's like, Harmony, you should let people give you gifts. And I just usually don't. And so it felt weird to me to even take this, but she was like, please take, you know. So I kind of am like, I was eyeing this, but when I seen the price tag, I was like, I'm gonna choose the other one. But before I leave, after I buy this one, I'm looking at, and I said, you know, my husband and I, we come down here all the time. And so when we come have dinner one day, I'm going to be back and I'm going to get him to get me this ring. Okay, this is it, you guys. I don't know if you can tell. It's like 2 little cat heads, but they're garnets. And I feel like it gets blurry anytime I get close, but anyway, it's just, you know, I did not have the money for it, so I I was like, I'll get my husband to bring me back and get it. And she had already gifted me something. And she legitimately is like, please take this ring. It wants to go home with you. I knew those 2 rings wanted to go home with you. That's why I put them out. When a stone wants to go home with somebody and I'm like, no, I can't take it. And then finally I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it because I love it. And you know, my Native American mentor is always telling me, like, you need to learn to receive, and that she's part of why she's in my life is to teach me to receive with grace. But in my priestess training, I learned not to accept gifts because there's strings of attachment and you don't want to become someone's guru. And so not taking gifts, I don't know. So I'm still like wrapping my mind around that because, you know, and the girl who owns the store gives my daughter a ring as well. So I take this, I'm getting ready to leave, and she's like, there's a matching necklace. Let me give you the necklace. And I'm like, no. I ended up refusing the necklace because I was like, I can't, like, but this woman, what I'm getting at, is so generous. I have never met someone so generous in my life. Like, she was literally trying as I was leaving to give me more. And I was like, no, please. Like I appreciate it, but I also did not want to take advantage of her generosity. And I know from when I had my store, especially children, when children would come in the store, if they wanted a crystal, it was theirs. Like, that was it. If their parents were like, put it back, I was like, you can have it. But I would give stuff to people all the time, to where the point my husband would be like, Harmony, we cannot stay in business if you give all the inventory away. So I also had that in mind, to where I was like, I don't want to have her get excited about having me there and do more than was probably good for her business. But I also was like, okay, I can receive and with grace. And I'm so excited to bring the women there because I have never met a business owner in Sedona that I was so energetically in alignment with. So if you guys, okay, also another thing she tells me, she just moved there from Kansas, right? A year ago. And she tells me, I'm asking her about her neighborhood, because I always have thought about moving like right in Sedona. My husband's always like, there's too many Airbnbs. There's no communities. And so I'm asking her about the community she lives in, if she likes it. And she's like, yeah, except for I got in trouble with the people in my community because I was feeding the coyotes. And oh my gosh, if there wasn't a seal the deal comment for bringing the women of my retreat to her business, that was it. It was like, I think Spirit made her say that to me because I have been so particularly guarded around where I bring the women there in Sedona, because I can't put my name on anything there other than nature, if that makes sense. And when she said she was feeding the coyotes, if you live in Arizona, you know you really can't feed the coyotes, because then the coyotes will start coming to you, right? And they steal people's animals. But also, in my opinion, people should not have their animals outside. But what really got me about this is my Native American mentor there was a family of coyotes that gave birth to a bunch of babies 1 million years ago. Not 1 million, but 10 or more years ago. And they all moved on and they left the runt. And she has been feeding all these years this coyote. And I know it's been coming to the end of its life. She told me, she can see it's getting older and stuff, but she brings it a plate of food every night. And she's like, if I feed it, then it's not going to be, they're just dogs, really. And she's like, if I feed it, it won't, she said it probably would have died because its family moved on without it. And so I always loved that Rebecca continued to feed that coyote along with all the other animals on her land. And so it just, when she said she fed the coyotes, I don't know if she's vegetarian. I don't know anything really about her, but that spoke to me so much about who she was as a person. Like, I could tell she had so much knowledge and wisdom and was so integral to her crystals, the way I am to my craft, that she was trying not to be judgmental of the other people in Sedona. She wants to, you know, meet the people that live there and have businesses there, but she's also like, yeah, there's so much fake stuff there. Like, she's actually going and buying fake crystals around town to create a display of fake crystals in her store to be able to show people what a fake crystal can look like. And I just felt the integrity in her craft. It wasn't really that she was judging what anyone else was doing, but that she really feels the power in these crystals. And part of the crystals in her store were dug up and mined by somebody she knew, that a meteor actually crashed in the ground there. And she said because that meteor crashed in the ground there, she believed all those stones had all this extra power. And this man went out there specifically to mine the crystals in that area because the meteor crashed there many years ago. And so there was just so many things like that I was just so intrigued. And I thought, last night after I got home, I was just like, it's crazy how quickly spirit aligns things for me when I am trusting myself and just speaking like it's any other day. It's almost like that is more powerful for me as a witch than even when I sit and cast a spell. It's when I'm having those conversations in my everyday life and I speak something that is truth. It is 100% truth of what I wanted and what I am energetically in align with. It's like I have turned down so much money from people trying to get me to sell their products because I don't know if I'm 100% in line with them. And so in the moment when I'm like, yes, I am calling in aligned opportunities, that the universe is like, bing, and just like drops it in my lap. Like, you want to connect with someone? Bing. And so I'm actually really excited to bring the ladies there from the retreat. I'm excited to learn from her because, like I said, I don't know a ton about, like, there even these crystals I bought, other than garnet, they are crystals I've never heard of or worked with. And so I'm super excited to bring the ladies there to learn from her, because I believe crystals are one of those things that are in the spiritual community that people from the outside are like, oh, we can take advantage of these people and make fake crystals and sell them to them. We just get them from the earth. We pay someone to mine and, you know, paint them or whatever it is they do in the labs to make them look colors, and they sell them to people. So yeah, I was just really excited about that. But the message I wanted to bring in today is that there is a power in you as a witch. And what's blocking that power for a lot of us is our past wounding. And that is why I emphasize in my classes, my courses that I teach, is there's always an alignment with the universe, the elements, and your physical energy and your wounding before we ever get into spell work. And what's interesting about that is no one wants that, right? What everyone wants is teach me the spells, but what they don't realize is that you making a spell jar is no different than you getting home from work and cooking dinner and slapping it on the table for your family. If you've had no shadow work that you've done, no healing or energetic training or alignment work that you've done, you know, the thing is about the pagan times. And when I say pagan times, I'm referring to before the conversion of pagan Europe, before that era where everyone was required to convert. That is a time period that everyone was considered pagan Now we consider pagan a religion, but the way the people lived before that time period was in alignment with the universe, with the elements, because they didn't have the modern day conveniences that we have today. So their connection to the earth, to the air, to the fire, it was everything to them. That's how they survived. So their connection to those things was effortless. For us, the connection to earth, air, fire, water, and spirit is completely foreign. They were more in touch with their physical bodies because they were more in touch with the physical earth. Now, I believe everyone that came from that time period practiced what we now see as pagan folk magic. That's a lot of what was carried through in Christian religions. That was a lot of what people were being pointed, they would point the finger and call them witch because they practiced pagan folk magic, right? And because during that time period, there was also this dramatic shift to healthcare being primarily men rather than women. So the healers were also pointed the finger at as being a witch. Now, the original witch before that time, I believe, was more of an oracle, a priestess, a seer, rather than a healer or any of those things. During the conversion, the witch became far more than she ever was before that time period. And it's hard to define who a witch is or what a witch is when you historically go back. Has even been times where I've asked myself, did witches even exist? Historically looking at it, you would just think witch was a word they came up with. But I know in my bones and in my body and my energy, I've known since I was a child, like there were witches. Now, the witch has become something far different than it ever was initially, to where we're putting more into the witch being an herbalist or a womb priestess of sorts, or someone that does folk magic, which would be like corn dollies and things like that, and not developing the psychic and mediumship and priestess work that initially I believe was the true witch. And so that's where I go with all of my courses online, is this rooting you in the connection to the earth, because that's what we've lost. And it's the craft, as far as the witch, like it's totally been whitewashed. Every witch in the past was pagan because everyone was pagan, if that makes sense. Everyone lived closer to the earth. Now we live in houses that separate us from the earth through the concrete. We stay inside our house instead of being outside in the elements a lot. Now, you can ground, you can connect in your home, yes, of course. But I think we're also missing the opportunity to heal ourselves and to connect with source that is inside of us because of the conversion of pagan Europe. That was one of the most disempowering things that ever happened to humanity, and it anchored patriarchy. Patriarchy was building for thousands of years before that, don't get me wrong. It was building. I do believe there was a matriarchal time. However, there's a few people that have written books and shown different proof, archaeological facts, that there was a matriarchal time, but it's still yet to be widely accepted that there was a matriarchal time, other than by spiritual woo-woo people, right? But it's the archaeological facts of our planet speak to a time that was matriarchal. So a lot of people think that nowadays we're coming back to matriarchy. I have nothing against matriarchy, but I believe we're coming to a time of where it's balance. And I think that's could be a light of the age of Aquarius, because Aquarius is an air sign, which is connected to spirit, and it's a masculine sign. But the glyph for Aquarius is the water bearer. And so that water is closely connected. And if you think about the water bearer, the one that brings the water, it brings the life to something. And so Aquarius is always in its light for me, and I didn't learn this in my training, it just feels like this to me, is that it like Aquarius in its light can honor both the masculine, spiritual, like transcendent energy, while also honoring that water bearing, life giving energy. And so my hope is that will come eventually through the age of Aquarius. But as we look back at the ages, and the ages change approximately every 2,000, 2,100 years, somewhere in there, and the ages go backwards. And so the age of Aquarius is coming after the age of Aries, right? Which the age of Taurus preceded. Before that would be the age of Gemini. So the next age we would go into 2,000 years from now is Capricorn. But when you look back at the ages, it is almost like every age is expressing the shadow aspects so hardcore. It's like the shadow and the light are so profound, and it's like we are so educated now as humans. We really need to look at those shadows and make a decision to not go into the shadow aspects of what this age could bring. And with technology and AI coming in the way that it is, I think we can definitely see, we're not sure on the exact date that Aquarius became the age of Aquarius, but you can see we're definitely in the age of Aquarius right now. Be mindful of what you are utilizing and how it's being utilized. That is technology, because in history, we don't have proof, but I believe it was Plato. It was Plato that recorded the work that there was an Atlantean age, and supposedly the technology, it just became a shadow thing until they destroyed themselves. And so we don't want to destroy ourselves. And so we want to, during this time, stay close to the earth, stay close to the water bearer. And the water bearer, to me, is the one who gives life, gives nurturing. It's that divine mother, it's that goddess aspect. So as a witch, there's a lot of things out there that are twisted into our culture as witches, and that don't need to be. Like, we can see why so much Christian influence has woven its way into the craft, and that was to help the witches and the people that wanted to practice pagan folklore, folk magic, not be killed for who they were. And yet we find ourselves in 2025, and yet we're still allowing these Christian concepts to influence craft. And it's like things like the devil and Satan. Like, I'm not prefacing that I'm not a satanic witch to make you think I'm all love and light, because I'm not. I am shadow as much as I am light, like everyone else on this planet. I am not trying to make you think that I'm Miss Goody Two Shoes, the Good Witch of the East, or whatever it was. I'm not trying to make anyone think that. I am actually saying I'm not a satanic witch because I will not continue to bring the Christian influence that the witches had no other choice than to utilize. They had no other choice because they would have been murdered for being who they were. So they used scripture instead of incantation. Do we need to do that today? No. Are there some old spells, old things that our great-grandmothers gave us, like me, that was a scripture that was used to heal people? You might carry that on. But are we going to carry on? Are we really going to have satanic witches or devil-worshipping witches actually be a thing? Because I'm seeing, with the exposure of the Epstein files and them realizing that there is some deep hidden occultist type magic that they're working with, they're starting to intertwine that word. I listened to something this week from Candace Owens about that, and I was like, I need to email this woman, because she needs to realize, like, Masonic or Freemasonry, like, has nothing to do with witchcraft. I know Freemasons influenced the Mormon church because I was raised Mormon. But she was pointing out that what these people in the Epstein files are practicing, that type of blood magic, is witchcraft. And I was like, oh, hell no. Somebody needs, this woman has hundreds of thousands of followers. Someone needs to tell her who a witch really is and who a witch isn't. Because I don't want, as well as the rest of you don't want, anyone to be able to start that narrative again of that the witches are evil. We are not. Please do not put those two categories together. Any blood magic that anyone practiced throughout humanity for thousands of years, it's woven into the Christian church, it's woven into Judaism, it's woven into Native American culture. They kill animals and sacrifice people. The Mayan religions, sacrificing people, have gone on for thousands of years. The thing is we've evolved past that. And so now we're looking at these people that are still doing it, and we're like, what the fuck, right? And rightfully so, we need to say what the fuck. But also, like, please do not lump witches in there, because the way witches would use blood in their magic is not by killing in modern days. And if you are, you shouldn't be, right? And who's here? That brings me to the question, like, who gets to be the gatekeeper of the witch? I certainly don't want anyone to gatekeep my craft. But at the same time, it's like somebody needs to speak up for witches and start saying something, because we are going to be whitewashed right off the planet and end up being spiritual women in the Christian church if we do not get some clarity on who we are, what we believe, and what the history of the witch was. So it really is an interesting time on our planet. A lot of people waking up, a lot of misinformation out there. People are trying to decipher what's real and what's not real. I'm getting multiple comments a week on my videos of people saying they're AI. They're not AI. Like, I don't make those videos through AI. I am hosting real women's retreats for witches. And I'm sharing what we do so people can see that your draw to the craft, if you've had that, because a lot of people in churches have had this draw, especially women, to the craft, and yet they're afraid of it. And so it's like they're afraid of it because Christian people like Candace Owens and different priests and people like that and bishops are pointing the finger at witches. And it's like, a witch is not Freemasonry. A witch is not involved. Like, the craft is considered part of the occult, OCCULT, not a cult. But the word occult just means the hidden mysteries, right? So you can't lump, or you shouldn't be lumping witches into that. Now, why can she get away with lumping witches into that? Because we have people out there saying, hey, any other Satanistic witches out there? Hey, any other devil-worshipping witches out there killing cats and dogs? And I'm like, hey, fuck you. Like, why are you doing that? We know better than that. We have more compassion than that. We realize how the ways of old has woven, and that's why I'm saying it wasn't perfect during the pagan era of time. Like, they were sacrificing humans, they were sacrificing children. Where did I go? Was that Belize or Honduras? Like, they actually had, like, we went on this Mayan ruin where they would kill they would like bloodlet a young man in puberty and a young woman on this altar on the top of this place. And I was so like, I don't even know how to describe the energy of that place. It's not somewhere I want to go back. Like the beauty, and I was impressed with the architecture, but it really just sat with me where we came from. And I don't believe that was part of the matriarchal society, honestly. I think that was part of the patriarchal society. And now I'm not a historian. So, books I read, and I take what I believe as truth as trusting my body and feeling into what truth is. I've recently been having discussion with someone that runs everything in Salem, and she has taught Stella and I so much. She was actually very rude to us. And looking back now, I'm like, I think this woman was so rude to us because she's told us, people have even said to her, like, this was so out of character for you, because I guess she's very introverted. She runs everything, but a very introverted person. So for her to be as rude to us and challenge us the way that she did was out of character for her. But I believe that why she did that was because Salem wanted us to come back there and do healing work. Because what I've learned from Elizabeth and other people in that area is that the witches there are expressing like complete shadow. They're competing with one another. They're not supporting one another, and they'll only become friends with you if you're supporting them and not other places. And we experienced that just when we were trying to plan the retreat. We were reaching out to these local businesses who completely ignored us, and we were like, okay, obviously they don't want tourists to come here, yet they survive on tourism. Anyway, Elizabeth was completely rude to us, and so we had initially thought we were never going to go back to Salem again. We would hold a retreat in Australia. She was criticizing what we were wearing, our witch hats, which if you follow me, the witch hat is a reclamation of who we are. And I'm not willing to hide. There are a lot of other witches who really want nothing more than to blend in with society. I don't care if I don't blend into society. I don't want to blend and mix. Do I want to be accepted? Yes. I sometimes am dressed like I am today, like a priestess. Other times I'm in jeans. Sometimes I have my pentacle on. Other times I don't. Like yesterday in Sedona, my daughter and I sat down to eat. We moved tables, and when we moved tables, I don't have to be able to read people's energy or their mind or anything to know when someone's judging you. But I realized both her and her husband were like side-eyeing me and talking because I was wearing my pentacle. And it's like, in that essence, I would like to be accepted to where people aren't doing that to me, because I think that's really shitty as humans. Like, we should be able to coexist, having different belief systems, as long as we're not harming anyone. Why are they judging me? Most likely because they think I am harming someone, right? And people like Candace Owens are carrying on that narrative. And so it's really important that us witches really get clear and remember for ourselves, it's okay to have a beginner's mind. It's okay to change what you thought yesterday. If you were identifying as a devil-worshipping witch, it's okay to say, I actually don't believe in the devil anymore, because I realized the devil never existed until Christianity, and I'm not a Christian. It really is our work as witches to show up with the utmost integrity. And so I wear a hat, even though I'm a 50-year-old woman, and people in my town and people even who I do their hair are probably like, what is she doing? Like, why is she dressing up like it's Halloween? I've heard people say. Other people say I'm the leader of a witch cult. I mean, I've heard a million things over the years. And the one thing that I have had to get okay with is that not everybody's going to understand me. Business relationships, friendships have fallen apart because I, over the years, have come more and more to the stance that I will not hide. I will not diminish myself because I scare your mother. My initial opening up, we were called Mystic Yogini when I opened up. I did my first course online. We were called Mystic Yogini. I was the mystic, the other girl was the yogini, even though I taught yoga too. But in my yoga classes, I just can't help but not be a witch. I am a witch. Well, her mother joined our course and was like, you really need to tell that girl not to call herself a witch. I can't tell you how many times this has happened in my life. That was the final time for me. I was like, I will not work with people who are doing this. And so I, had to tell her, like, we're going to part ways because I can't do this. I am who I am. And that is why I wear the hat, you guys, is because, it is a reclamation of who I am, and that I am not afraid to be who I am, regardless of what your judgments around who I am are. If you don't care enough to ask me what I believe, and you're going to believe your priest or your pastor on who a witch is over who a witch is telling you they are, it's like, if you want to know what a witch believes, ask a witch. Don't ask your priest. Your priest isn't a witch. How is your priest going to know who a witch is? They're not witches. They're just judging who witches are in the same church that they're preaching not to judge from. So in that essence, in Salem, we were judged for our hats. And I had read in a book, because I've researched what the oldest hat connected to a witch was in the ABCs of witchcraft. She references some cave drawings in Spain that look like women dancing in a circle wearing pointed hats. Now, she has, because this woman is a historian, she's challenged me on that, because she says, just because you read that in some book doesn't make it true. But my thing to that is, just because she says for it to be historically accurate, you have to have 5 forms of proof. Like, there's this whole thing in the historian world, which, good. That way we know what we're carrying forward is true. However, the witch's medicine has been wiped off the planet because Christians killed it off the planet. The Roman Catholic Church murdered the craft. I actually don't believe they murdered witches. I just believe they murdered pagan women, or women that were still wanting to utilize their pagan abilities. I believe most of the witches made it because they had the knowledge or the wisdom too, if that makes sense. But again, if we're only going to believe what is true if it has 5 other forms of making it historical truth, then us witches don't have a leg to stand on anything. And so it's like, there needs to be those of us that are so in integrity with our craft that we are willing to change when something comes out. Or, I acknowledge the witch hat the way I see it in that cave drawing, because there's not 5 forms of fact around it. Now I know that. It's not historical. But the woman who wrote that book, just like the people that wrote the books about all the facts and history around there being a matriarchal time, like when God was a woman, you can see that there was a matriarchal time on our planet. Just because the historian of historians hasn't accepted that as truth does not mean it's not truth. Did modern Hollywood take the archetype of the hat, the witch's broom, the witch wearing black, there being a good witch and a bad witch, and make that the stereotypical witch? Yes, absolutely. And I get beat up all the time for wearing my witch hat from other witches because they say I'm making us the stereotypical witch. And I'm like, no, that's not why I wear a hat. I wear a hat to say I am a witch, and I am not afraid for you to see me being a witch. So, and it also represents the circle of protection. This hat that I wear is designed by a witch. It's hand felted wool. The frequency of wool, she chose wool because it grounds you. Witches need grounding. All humans need grounding. Why do you think that, interestingly enough, in the 90s, rap started becoming so popular, it's because these artists are actually channels of spirit, and they are bringing in information of what humanity needs. Rap, what we need from rap is the bass. We need the bass because we need grounded. There's a million, like, we are all living in constant fear because the government officials and the religious leaders keep us in fear to control us. If we were grounded in our bodies, that base that connects you to the earth, I believe that's originally why that blossoming of what we now see as rap came, because there was a need in humanity to be grounded in our bodies. Like, you know, in 2020, everyone went crazy and was buying toilet paper. If there was not more of a sign, so many people were saying that, like, putting it out there, and it was like, it still didn't stop people from buying toilet paper, but it was like, do you see you're buying toilet paper? Of all the things you could buy, you're buying toilet paper. You think there would be a shortage of canned goods, not a shortage of toilet paper. But the toilet paper is it's showing you, it's mirroring how the root, that lower cauldron of our body, was out of balance. And that it was out of balance because they used fear of our body, fear of being a witch, to murder people, and they murdered them in the middle of town. And so that changed people's DNA. The same way that science says a family of squirrels will live in an area, and squirrels will get hit by cars, and eventually they learn not to cross that street. But when the next generation of squirrels come, it's like no one was ever killed in that running in that street, but they know not to go in that street because it's programmed in their DNA. Same thing with humans. We are programmed in our DNA to not be a witch, to not be close to the earth, to not do anything witchy, because you could be murdered for it. That fear is in our DNA. And so everything that is happening right now, it's important to acknowledge, it's going to trigger your DNA. It's going to trigger the wound. It's going to trigger the past, the multiple women that were sexually assaulted, raped. It's going to trigger all of your ancestors' wounds. It's going to trigger the abundance blocks. We're in war now. It's looking at World War III. And it's like, we are getting, they're trying to see what they can do to control us, and they are controlling us, right? 4 or 5 weeks ago, everything was the Epstein files. No one's talking about that anymore. And before that, it was ICE. And the ICE and the Epstein files, keep talking about that. I'm disgusted by the war, but we need to keep our eyes on what our eyes need to be on. The fact that they are just seeing if they can manipulate us, and they can, because 90% of the news is the war. Not that we don't need to be educated on what's happening, but it's turning the tables so that not enough of us middle-class people, working-class people, whatever you want to call us, are having our eyes on what's important. And what's important is that they are trying to control us and keep their sick, twisted rituals. And at the same time, there's people like Candace Owens, which when I listened to her for a few minutes, I'm like, oh, she actually is like, you know, I was one of the ones who thought Trump would be your savior, but I'm here to tell you I was wrong. And I was like, oh, I respect that. She can say she's wrong. You know, she's pro life, and I'm not about that. But when she came to the part where she was talking about witches and this occult stuff that they're practicing being witchcraft, I was like, fuck, you had me, girl. I thought you were doing some good in the world until you said that. And that's what made me think, like, I've got to email this woman and tell her, like, do not lump witches in with this. Get it straight before you start using words and having priests back you up that, yes, this is what's happening. It's witchcraft. It's like, okay, have a witch there, please. Have a witch there. Because, like, the misinformation that is being spread And then there's the witches who are like, why do you wear a hat? Like, we just want to blend in with regular people. It's like, okay, if you want to blend in with regular people, fine. But that also is setting us up. It's priming for another witch trials to come about, to where they're looking to see who the witches are, because nobody knows, because it's been whitewashed. And this is where, like, I'm not Wiccan. I respect Wicca, all of Wicca that they've done for us, but I'm not Wiccan. I probably would say I was Wiccan if the witch trials came, because that's what Wicca created, is a safe, under the Religious Freedom Acts in most places, they cannot kill you for your religious beliefs. So, you know, every one of us solitary witches, and probably all the other witches out there who are screaming into the night, I'm not Wiccan. I guarantee you, if the witch trials, they were burning people in the middle of town again, they'd be like raising their hand, I'm Wiccan, so they wouldn't be burned at the stake, right? So us solitary witches we are the whitewashing of the craft. And so there needs to be those of us that are living in right relation, in integrity with who they believe witches are, and also have respect for Wicca, because if there came a time, goddess forbid, where the witch trials happen again, we would need to lean on the fact that we are Wiccan, even though we are not Wiccan, right? And it's a crazy world we are living in. And part of the things that are whitewashing the craft are things like the spells being shared, and the fact that they're sharing spells like they're sharing a recipe, and people don't have any other information on energy or energetic connection to the earth or the elements. And so if they have results, it's like there probably was some power that existed within them. I'm not saying if you haven't done shadow work there's no power in you, but it's likely that you're going to get a funky result, where it's almost like how people use cord cutting for their ex-husband they hate, and it's like, really, that cord cutting should be used for the divorce agreement, not to cut your husband out of your life, because we are one. So even if you cut cords, like, you chose to come, your soul chose to come to this life with him, you had soul agreements to come here, you're not going to cut any cord that severs him from you, but you can sever your oaths and vows and the energetic toxicity in your life. But people are using it as, I fucking hate my husband, I'm going to cut this cord. And it's like, okay, you're probably going to feel some relief. Cut the cord from your ex-husband, cut the cord from your toxic brother. You might feel a relief in the first few minutes, first few days, maybe even months, but chances are you're going to have that rebound effect, and it's coming back for you, because you can't cut a cord with a person, because we are one. Our souls chose to come here to play out these karmic lessons that we are playing out. So there's so much more that goes into cord cutting than just someone cutting these cords for you. And I believe, the witches of old, people turned to them to do that spell work because that was what was needed during those times, right? They needed to learn the craft. They needed to learn how to take their energy. They already knew how to work with energy. They were working with the work, where it's like modern days, we don't really need the witches casting the spells. We need the witches teaching people how to heal first. And then if they choose to cast the spells, which I do the spells and stuff, but I am more apt to do ritualistic stuff, ceremony, because it's a ceremony and ritual are aligning you energetically so that the spell or your life is a spell in motion. So that's where the witch is the master weaver. They're taking what looks like a bundle of yarn and they're creating a masterpiece with it, right? So that's how you make your life a spell in motion, is you start weaving with what you've got. And that's the healing aspect that has to be brought into the craft. I'll use Marjorie's my main moderator. She's the priestess in my coven. You guys probably see her in the comments. She's like my fierce protector. I adore her. We met on during my lives, like when I first started doing them, and she joined my virtual coven, and she's always here in the comments, keeping the safe space and everything. And today she was telling me, hopefully it's okay that I share this. She was telling the coven that someone went into her backyard and stole her banana tree, and she was so angry. And I, was reading what she shared, and I was like, that anger is so valid, Marjorie. No one should go in your backyard and steal your banana tree. And, she had mentioned something about it maybe being a shadow that she was so angry, but I was, thinking about that. And I think about comments you guys make. I think about these things and internalize them and want to share wisdom and knowledge to the best of my ability. And so some of these things, just like I was saying with this other woman asking about the crystals, like how that wove into my reality, how I continued to think about her. I've continued this morning as I was getting ready thinking about Marjorie having that banana tree stolen. I was like, how dare someone do that? That like makes me angry for her, right? And I'm like, how could someone do that to her? And that is not a shadow, right? Anger is not a shadow when it's forged in a healthy way. And anger is a emotion, and all emotions are meant to flow. They have a purpose, and that is to move energy around and out your body, out of your body. And anger is an empowering emotion. And so it's moving that the anger is like, it's all of the feelings around that injustice, right? And so letting that anger flow is a good thing. Allowing it to move is a good thing. Now, when we get stuck in anger and all we focus on is anger and we are hateful in our everyday life, there's something wrong. Now, Marjorie doesn't seem to have that. She doesn't go around hateful and angry her whole life. So to me, from what I can see, as someone who I've worked with her through all my classes, like she's not carrying that energetic vibration of anger. It's okay to be friggin' pissed that someone came in your backyard and stole your banana tree. How dare they? And I forget why I started telling that story. Anyway, why was I telling that story? It was one of those things I continued to think about. I know that's why I was saying it. It's like I continued to think about, like, you deserve to be angry. And there's a lot of things we have to be angry about in our life right now. I think the most important thing right now, though, is we allow that energy of anger. That's the second cauldron of energy here in the craft. A lot of times as witches, we're focusing on the chakra system when what's inherent to the witches is the Celtic cauldron system of energy. And that's the cauldron of motion when you're working with anger. And I believe a lot of us have either repressed or stored trauma in our liver or our gallbladder. But what's interesting about anger is it's that empowering emotion. This is what I was getting at. And there's usually something under the anger, but we don't want to be so quick to diminish the anger that it doesn't have its rightful energetic flow, right? There is a reason, an empowering energy for you to take action on your own behalf that fire of anger brings, right? So Marjorie had righteous anger. She might need to spend a day with it or a week with it. And she did mention in her post that, as a child, she did not have a lot. She came from a very poor family. And which means she didn't have a lot, right? And so for someone to take something from her, who knows what it took for her to have that. And so that's what I really began thinking about, was once Marjorie moves through the anger part, there is going to be a different fire in her, a different passion in her and she's been in the depths of inner child work since she's known me, because that's one of my specialties that I bring into the craft, is really putting a focus on healing the inner child. Because we will never access our full true power until we can truly access the child within us. And so I think when Marjorie gets to the other side of this, there's going to be a lot of grief and sadness because her child self didn't have a lot. And that's what all of this was speaking to me. Yes, she's angry that someone took her banana tree. She loves that banana tree. She mothers that banana tree, right? Her connection to her plants is that of a mother. But eventually she's going to realize that plant that she loves so much is a mirror of the little girl in her. And that little girl that she's been loving for so long, and her life's becoming a spell in motion. And so I'm watching, with Marjorie, I guide less because Marjorie gets there, and now I'm guiding because she's hearing what I think about this. But Marjorie has done so much shadow work with her child that it's starting to weave. She's allowing those things to move, and it's weaving its way in. So me as a guide, as the high priestess of our coven, I'm not the high priestess that tells everyone how to do. I look at everyone individually. When they share their coursework, that is opening a door for me to guide. And with Marjorie, I know that she's had a terrible lung issue from being sick. I think she had acute bronchitis or something. Anytime you have something wrong with your lungs, chronically wrong with your lungs, especially like if it's not going away, there's grief that is trying to move. And so Marjorie's coming to the end of this sickness. She's finally starting to feel better. Just yesterday she told me that, and today the banana tree came. And so it's like there must be a part of Marjorie that not only needs to be sad for her inner child and grieve for her inner child, but she needs to be enraged for her child self too. That she didn't have what she needed, that she had to cling to everything that she had, that because there was a threat that she might maybe not be like the other kids and have everything the other kids had. My husband has the same wound, and just the other day he was telling me something I didn't know about him. His mother left his dad when he was around 10, I believe, and moved out of state, and they were given the option, stay with your mom or your dad. Only one of the 4 brothers went with the mom to Ohio. He stayed with his dad, who was on drugs at the time, so no one was caring for him but his older brother. And I've heard all these stories about this, but he actually has been teasing. I don't know if you guys have watched Christmas Vacation, but on Christmas Vacation the guy thinks he's going to get a bonus, and he doesn't get the bonus, and he has all his family over at this Christmas thing he's having at his house, and he gets the envelope of like, I'm gonna get a pool, and I'm gonna do this for these people in my family and this for these people in my family, right? Well, he ends up opening the envelope and he gets Jelly of the Month Club. He doesn't get any money, no bonus. Well, my husband last year got a promotion at work, which puts him in a bonus category, and he was so excited because he was like, I'm going to be able to buy us a new couch. Like, we both have back problems, and our couch gives us terrible back problems. And we always talk about how much money I spend at the chiropractor if I didn't have to sit on that couch, and we could, finance a couch or do something, but we're trying to not do that in our lives right now. And so excited about this bonus, right? And he got promoted midway through the year, beyond midway of the year, I think. So the bonus was not what he thought. And when he got it, he keeps saying, I was Jelly of the Month Club. So I'm always working with him on his abundance blocks, because he and I have my own abundance blocks, but they are nowhere in the category of his abundance blocks from being left without his mother. And one of the things that he told me last week that he had to do for himself when she left was no one was buying him new clothes for school. No one bought him new shoes. He'd have to go to Kmart and buy Pro Wings and buy these Pro Wings while everyone else had these fancy shoes and stuff, and junior high, and he had Pro Wings. And I've heard all those stories, but yesterday I went to put on this lace shirt, and when I cut out the tag in it, I cut the side of the shirt. So I was trying to thread the needle, and I have a little issue, not bad, but little, seeing up close, so I couldn't get the needle threaded, and he thread the needle for me, and he's like, I taught myself to sew when I was a little kid when my mom left, because I never had new clothes, and so as I grew, the clothes like stretched and the seams would rip, like the armpit or the side of a shirt or the crotch of my pants. And he said, he said, no one ever taught me to sew like you, because I was like, who taught you to sew? Your mom? And he said, no. He said, she left her stuff in the house for sewing, so I used that. But he said, I didn't tie a knot like you. He said, I didn't know you were supposed to do that at the beginning or the end. Well, I hate to sew, but I know how to sew because my mom's like an avid, gifted sewer. Made us, like, she required us to learn to sew, like she required us to go to church. So I know how, even though I hate it and I don't do it. And he's like, I just would sew back and forth again and again and again so many times that it didn't come apart. So he just put the thread in and went like this, and then turned around and went back again and went back again. And I was like, wow, and that worked? And he was like, yeah. And that's how, because he didn't have anyone buying him new clothes, when his clothes became worn, he would sew his own clothes. And that just broke my heart, because as long as I've been working on abundance stuff with him, he's always willing to buy me whatever I wanted. Like when he got the little bit of a bonus he's like, I'm going to go buy the wood flooring for your witch room, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your wood flooring in. And I was like, please don't. Please go buy something for yourself. Like, this is the bonus that you made for you. Allow yourself to buy something for you. At Christmas time this year, at Yule, I actually bought him 10 new shirts, because he has shirts, you guys, I'm not kidding you, from probably when we first got married almost 20 years ago. And so I was like, please get rid of those shirts. But he hangs on to his clothes like no other. And shoes are like the greatest gift you could give him in the world. And it's always, the shoes are, I know the shoes are a thing. He's a very athletic guy. And so him having to wear Pro Wings, I'm sure was like horrifying as a child. But it like hit home on a different level, like for me towards him the other day when he told me he had to sew his clothes. I was like, that's why he's not getting rid of his clothes. That's why he hangs on to his clothes. It's like that wound is carrying through. And this morning he was going on a bike ride, and, everything he's done, I've legitimately had to, even the bike he bought himself, the mountain bike, I've had to convince him, go buy a mountain bike. Like, he has such a hard time buying himself something or buying himself something new. But it's because as a child, he lacked for those things. And his older brother would work and try to buy him things. Like, he talks about this story about how his older brother in high school bought him a dirt bike. But there was like no mother in the house to provide these things, and his dad was it was like his brother was raising him. And his dad's a different man now. I don't even know that guy existed. He's done so much healing. But I see that in that same wound in Marjorie when she talks about her childhood. And it's like, your craft as a witch will never be as powerful as it can be if you go inward inside yourself and dig up the wounds of that inner child and start loving yourself. That's another thing. One of the women posted in the coven this week was the picture. I suggest that the women should post a picture of themselves in the group of them as a child. And someone said how cute she was. And she said, oh, that forehead was so big, or something like that. And it's like, those are the wounds we carry with us in adulthood that continue to be the part of us that doesn't feel worthy or doesn't feel enough. The wounds of our actual basic needs not being met. My husband having to sew his clothes. Marjorie not living in a safe environment and what she would receive was so precious to her. But also what I see is the sickness that she's been having that's not wanting to leave is the grief in her that needs to move around that child self. Well, she's coming to the end of the sickness and she's getting through it. And now there's this thing she has to be angry about that's triggering something from her childhood. And so the anger and this actual thing that happened that is making her so furious is probably a gift from herself to herself, for her to access a different level of grief and sadness that her inner child has. And so she had to experience the anger, because the anger is the catalyst for movement, for change, right? And she's coming to the end of the sickness. So the last bit of the lung issue that she's been having is probably related to the grief. And the more you do shadow work and the more you do inner child work, which is shadow work, it's layered. It's never ending. I still have triggers and shadow work to do, and I've been at this since, out of the broom closet since 2005, 2004, 2007, and was a solid go. So almost 20 years out of the broom closet, and I still have shadow work to do. The society we came from, our DNA has so much wounding, you guys. It's okay that it's going to be layered. It's okay that it's never over. It's okay that you're like, fuck, I have to deal with this again. I thought I was done with this. We're never done with this. Yeah. There is an emotion. I just seen someone ask for the emotion around cancer. And there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. I'd suggest reading that. I think different types of cancer speak to different types of energetic imbalances in the body. Like breast cancer would be around your energy of giving and your connection to your mother, and the female energy line in your family. For example, if it were liver cancer, something I'm always working with is my liver and gallbladder, because I had my liver and gallbladder removed. I have a Chiron in Aries, so my relationship with anger, I never let myself experience anger as a child. There wasn't room for it, basically. And so I've had to work with anger, and that's why I'm really fiercely outspoken about anger, is because I still have women try to tell me that my anger, it's so sad when they tell me, it's so sad you carry so much anger around our president, something like that. And I'm like, oh, hell no. You are not going to do what my mother did to me, which is make no space for my anger. It is okay for me to be angry at our president. This was 6 months ago or so. It's okay for me to be angry at him, and I am not that anger. It is a righteous rage to be pissed that we have a pedophile as our president. It is, and it doesn't make me an angry, hateful person. And yet, they try to, other women who haven't dealt with that yet will try to put that on you. And our spiritual communities are so mixed up, it's highly toxic in the spiritual community in general. People that do yoga and are just seventh dimension, fifth dimensional, frequency, light healing, and they're there's no space for anger. And it's if you don't allow people to express their anger, they're going to be all transcendent and float themselves right off the earth, because their body will become infected, because the anger was still held energetically in the liver. And, I was never given permission or even validated on any abuse I experienced, even into adulthood. My gallbladder, most people have gallstones. My gallbladder, when they tested it to see if it was functioning, they were it took, they were putting something into my body that made my body think that I was eating food to see how long it took for my gallbladder to work. It was at an hour. They said, usually your gallbladder starts to produce bile within minutes of eating. I was at an hour, And there still was, my gallbladder was doing nothing. And they were like, no wonder you're getting so sick. Like, this isn't gallstones. Like, your liver is completely, or your gallbladder is completely shut down. So that's why, like, I'm vegetarian and everything, and yet my liver is showing that it's fatty liver. It's like, all of this came from the anger that energetically was getting stored there, to the point where my gallbladder was just not working, because the gallbladder and liver hold anger, right? So every body part holds a different energy. The lower back holds the inner child abundance wounds. And, that's why I say, read the book, The Body Keeps Score. I also have online courses where we go into these things, where I teach from the wisdom of my life experience. It's not, I've taken hundreds of courses, read hundreds of books, and implemented so many different things, and, implemented years of therapy into what I am bringing into the craft to help women be able to be their most empowered self, to return to their center, to love themselves, to trust themselves, because I believe the magic exists within you. And if you've done the work and you still love doing the spell jars and the stuff, then great, because you know what you're actually doing and how you're weaving, and you have a relationship with the plants and the stones that are going into that jar. And, I teach this on a base level in Practical Magic for the beginner witch. I go a little deeper in the Way of the Witch for a year-long course. I've yet to put out there like a High Priestess course. I don't know if I'll ever do that. That's been something that's been in my mind, because I'm trying to figure out, like, am I supposed to teach tarot, astrology? Like, what is it that needs to come next? And High Priestess course has been kind of something that's on my mind, but I don't think High Priestess is something that you can take a course and become. I think it happens over time. As your energy shifts, you step into the space of the High Priestess through your own lived wisdom and experience of life. And that's what happened to me. And when I started embodying that and working as a High Priestess in my life, then the opportunity to be initiated as such came to me. I didn't even go looking for it. So I haven't put out that type of a class, but all of my classes, how they differ from most witches online, is I don't do spells for people. And I don't lead with you're teaching you how to do spells, and I don't lead with finding your ability, because I believe your abilities are buried under trauma. Not even just your trauma, but all of your ancestors' trauma. So what really my voice is getting hoarse. It must be time for me to start our casting of our circle. I just believe the modern day witches' work is more around healing than around spell work. And of course, we can have a passion for herbalism, a passion for whatever we find within there, and we'll have strengths and abilities there. But like I said in the beginning, if you see a witch that is trying to convince you of her abilities, she's probably not trusting herself, or they, I should say, are not trusting themselves. I usually will revert to saying she, because I primarily work with women, and the reason I work with women is because that is my oath and vow as a priestess that I took when I was initiated, was to work with women on specifically things that ail women in our modern world, the healing work around assault, around the childhood wounds, with trauma, the witch wound. And so I primarily work with women on this stuff. So I always say she, but I am not meaning to exclude that the witch is not owned by any gender. I believe the initial witches were women in Europe areas, but there were people, magicians, sorcerers, people that medicine men that actually, and medicine women and shamans that probably were doing the same thing in other cultures that the witch was doing. But because of the witch trials, the word witch became whitewashed, and the title became a smorgasbord of things. And it became widely accepted that women weren't the only witches, because they were killing people more than women as witches. And part of being a witch is inherently being pagan. And so I think that's where the balance of having, bringing into Wicca the horned man, the green man next to, or the Lord and the lady. But what I was saying earlier is, when someone's really trying to convince you of their abilities, what that says to me is they're not fully trusting themselves. Thank you for the gift, Marjorie, and thank you for anyone that sent a gift during this live. Thank you for hearting the live. Like, I see you. When I start talking and channeling, I'm just letting spirit move me in what I'm supposed to say. So it's not that I am not appreciative of everything that you're sending. And so I just wanted to stop and say thank you. If I stop and read someone's comment, you'll see I stop letting that flow come in. And then I'm like, actually, what was I saying? Because it's just pouring through me. So I am so thankful for your comments. I'm thankful for you creating community in those comments. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of witches out there that are like, what type of witch are you? What is your ability? And it's like, those things will come, and you won't need to like walk up to other witches and be like, hey, I'm a medium, I'm a channel, I'm a fairy whatever witch. It's like, your power will precede you, because your energy changes the more you make your life a spell in motion. And you won't need to convince people or even seek that validation. And that doesn't mean, my business, holding retreats, is through me sharing who I am. I'm not saying don't share who you are. Like, I have to state, like, I'm a channel. Like, I've had a hard time with that. Like, they're like, put your qualifications in your bio, and I've put them in there, and I'm like, get them out. Because I just think if people are drawn to me and drawn to my story, they'll come to me. It doesn't matter how many hours of training I've had in this, that, and the other. Like, I don't need, because I believe we're all just remembering. And you're not going to need to go and get all the hours of training I got to step into who you're meant to be. We're all meant to be somebody different. And that's, I've talked about the 2 lower cauldrons today, and I have, of course, the 3 cauldrons witchcraft that will align you energetically. It is a very powerful course that I just created at the beginning of this year that will help you step into your sovereignty. And even if you're a religious person, this course is for sure for you. The 3rd cauldron, so the lower cauldron is the warming cauldron. It is, around what roots and grounds you, and we talked about that, like the bass music, the fear of living in our body. And then the motion cauldron is the center cauldron, and the top cauldron, the upper cauldron, is and we're born with this cauldron completely flipped upside down, is the wisdom cauldron. And that wisdom is born of moving through the shadow work. And what's interesting, this comes through Celtic culture, and I believe the original witch was in those areas, those Celtic areas of Europe. And so it's interesting how many witches don't know the Celtic cauldron system, and they're using the Indian system of energy and using the chakras, which I used as well, because it was almost like, I think the chakras are almost like white sage. Like, the witches just started using it and became normal to use that. But there is the Celtic cauldron system that anyone can use. And it was said, like, in the Celtic times, that the poets and the scribes and the seers and the oracles had these 3 cauldrons in alignment to become who they were. And so that's why I added this class this year, because I realized, like, that's the, you need your year and a day as a witch, but you also need this energy foundation. And that is to understand your energy through the lens of a witch, which is different than understanding your energy through the chakras. Because as a witch, you are ultimately leading up to being the oracle that you are meant to be as a woman or a feminine embodied person. And that wisdom of the oracle is very similar to the wisdom of the shaman, right? But it's not like you gain that wisdom from taking all these courses. Even though I have courses to teach people this, it's like I'm guiding them to find that every life challenge they've ever had is the training. It is the courses. Like, it doesn't matter that I didn't graduate from high school. It doesn't matter that I didn't go to college for this. It doesn't matter, because the actual cauldrons in witchcraft, what was your training, was your challenges in life. That's where we get that concept that the greater the challenge, the more powerful the person has a potential to be. You know, there was a time in my life, because I was raised in a religion, that I actually looked at myself as so much less than everyone else, like almost like God hated me because I did have all these things happen to me, and they kept happening to me, and then they happened to my daughter, and that kind of re-triggered my daughters, and that triggered an old wound, an old story that I told myself of like, you are the shittiest person, you must have been the worst soul on the planet. And I, you know, like, that's religion, that's religious trauma. Had someone taught me the 3 Celtic cauldron system at the beginning, I would have been like, oh, I get it. Like, these challenges I set in place for myself so I could grow into the most powerful version of me, so I could clear the bloodline of humans that are continuing to carry on because of me birthing other children into this world, energetically being a part of this world. And so that's where your training is coming from. And that's why, you know, if you've seen my bio change on my website, it's because I work with these different website assistants and people who've helped me, and some of them always come back to like, you need to add your training in there and all these classes you've taken and how many hours. And I'm like, you know, again, like, I had one woman put them in there, and then I went back and removed them all. And worded them differently, and then I completely took them out. And it's because I truly believe that a course may be your guide. Like, my witch school is a guide, but your college, your degree is coming from your unique experience. Your unique experience through your challenges. I do need some water, Marjorie. I'm gonna get some water. All right, you guys, if you want to take that class, it's the Celtic Cauldron Witchcraft. I think all witches need it. There's so much in there. You are gonna love it. Also, we have space at Practical Magic Retreat if you want to come. We have spaces open for Sedona this fall. Come join us and go to Enchanting Earth Co. I think, I know Marjorie is a crystal witch, so I think she's really going to be excited about this trip. And what I do at the end of each of my lives is I cast a circle. And I cast a circle of protection and empowerment. If you would like to be a part of this, all you have to do is type into the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, I claim this, so that you're energetically stating, I am accepting what Harmony is offering, right? If you don't do that, then you're just witnessing what is happening here. You are energetically taking nothing unless you claim it, accept it, or receive, or state you are receiving it. I guide this like a guided meditation. So all you have to do is find a space to lie down or sit up where you will be undisturbed. And from your sit bones to the crown of your head is straight, meaning if you're lying down, you're not curled up like this because that blocks the flow of energy. If you're sitting, your legs are not crossed because that blocks the flow of energy. No arms crossed. You're sitting up tall. Your eyes are closed. Maybe even put headphones in. You listen to this guided meditation where I call in the guardians of the watchtowers, I call in the elements, and I call in deities to create a circle of protection and empowerment around you. This will be a circle around you and also below you, because I call the Earth Mother forward, and from the earth, the above you, from the star brothers and sisters and the planets above you. So you're in the circle that goes all the way around you like a bubble by the time we're done. I cast the circle in a way that it will be sealed until you lie your head down to sleep tonight, when the circle will be opened but never broken. And what that means is the circle will slowly dissipate, and when you move through your week this week, the medicine that you gleaned from being in, and that's another thing, I lift the circle up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, so you'll spend the rest of the day in the 7th and 8th plane consciousness, which you don't want to walk around in the 7th and 8th plane all of your life. But doing this for a period of time opens up your channels so that you can receive transcendent information on what steps are next for you. What can you do to empower yourself best? And that will integrate in the week ahead of you. Because once you go to sleep, the circle is opened, so it dissipates, but then the wisdom is beginning to move down and into your body, so you can embody whatever it is that you learned on this day in the sacred circle. Usually circles are cast by witches before doing spell work or a ritual or ceremony. And what that does is, because witches work between the world, we work in the liminal spaces. We cast a circle so that we are protected from those lower level energies and entities that people are creating, like the people that are trafficking children. That's why I'm saying that witches are not doing what they say we are doing. We are protecting ourselves from those entities that those evil people are creating on this planet. And so this protective circle for myself, I cast every morning in my head. I just say it silently, kind of like people do a prayer before I get out of bed. It's always my practice. If I don't do it in the morning, I do it before I fall asleep in bed at night. And that circle keeps me protected for who I am and how I live my life. And I believe that is the best form of protection. Works better than any crystal, anything. I also, when I am invoking the deities, I'm not invoking them to come inside your body. I am invoking them, meaning I am calling them forward to create a circle around you. So I'm not putting you in a trance, inviting all these deities into your body. I believe the deities exist as archetypes that we are meant to step into. When we are attracted to work with certain deities, it's because their energy actually exists within us, and we are meant to embody that. So by invoking their presence, they're creating an energetic space for you to step into that, if that makes sense. So I'm going to grab a drink of water and we'll start casting our circle. If you're going to be a part of it, type yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, I claim, and I'll see you in 1 minute. I don't have a candle lit in here today, so I'm having to use my lighter to light my sage. I haven't consecrated this spring altar yet because it's not completely finished. So I'm just going to take a moment and clear the space, and then we're gonna start. So if you want to put your headphones in, close your eyes. I'm just gonna take a breath. If you want to join me, you don't have to have something burning, but bring your hands together, press them together. Inhale as you lift your hands. Exhale, split your hands and sweep your side body. And then drag your hands up your belly and bring your hands back to your heart. Inhale again. Flip your palms. Sweeping the energy clear. Shake your hands at the bottom, flick them, and then sweep your hands up one final time. Inhale, reach. Exhale, sweep. Shake your hands at the bottom. Roll your neck. Release any tension in the body. And become very, very comfortable so we can go through our circle casting. Closing your eyes. Softening your eyelids. Softening your jaw. Relaxing your lower spine. Softening your feet. Sealing your lips, and slowly begin to inhale through your nose, moving the air consciously through the nostrils, through the throat, into the lungs, deep into the belly, the womb. Bring it with your consciousness all the way down your legs to the tips of your toes, down your arms, into your fingertips, holding at the top, parting your lips and audibly exhaling. Deep inhale, sealing the lips, a little faster of an inhale. Feel the lungs and the belly expand as you breathe in. Soften the shoulders when you get to the top and hold for 3, 2, 1. Open your mouth and audibly exhale. At the bottom of the exhale here, squeeze your abdominal muscles and expel any stuck, stagnant air so there's no air left in your body, and then pause there at the bottom. Empty of breath. Seal the lips. Inhale. Soften shoulders, push your belly out, hold that inhale, soften the lower back, belly is wide, chest is wide, heart open, hold. Take in one more sip of air, one more sip, part your lips and audibly exhale. As I call forth concentric circles of light to surround us now. These circles of light will show up for each of us differently. Allow the light to spiral around you, witnessing it without questioning it or judging it. Noticing that you are in the center of this sacred circle of light spiraling around you, moving north, east, south, west. You feel completely safe and protected within this center, in this darkness, within this circle of light. You feel at peace. A peace begins to wash over you. Like a waterfall of light. A peace that surpasseth all understanding. A trust that surpasses reason. A feeling of home that just is. I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west to witness over this sacred circle casting today for all who accept and receive. Across mountains, deserts, oceans, cities, towns, highways, across countries, across the world, we meet together within these circles of light, sovereignly and in community. As I call forth this sacred circle, I call the power of unity, consciousness, to expand from the heart of each individual within their own sovereign sacred circle. Guardian of the North, keeper of earth, I call forth the spirits and the elements of earth to join us now. Keeper of the crossroads, keeper of the keys, she who holds the torch of light within the darkness, joining us today, reminding us that she walks with us always through the underworld. She's reminding you that you are never alone. Your body is always connected to the depths of the earth, to each layer of the earth. For the underworld is an inherent journey. It is not a journey of punishment. It is a journey towards your wholeness. She reminds you you will never be alone when you call her forth. But she will walk you through some of the hardest, most challenging lessons of your life. She will challenge you to be the light in the darkness and to no longer fear the dark. She reminds you your power is universal. Your power is cosmic. Your power is eternal. Your power is the eternal aspect of your soul. You have forgotten, and she is here to remind you. Bless us as we call your name. Hecate, 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 Hecate. Guardian of the northeast, keeper of the rising sun and the sacred wells, she who creates the space for hope. For she reminds us that the light will always return. She reminds us of the mirror of the seasons, the alchemy that exists within the seasons, the wisdom and the healing that exists within the hope of the light returning each new day after you've slept through the darkest night. You will always awaken in the morning with clear vision and a new pathway aligned for a new day. Bless us as we call your name, Bridget, 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 Bridget. Guardian of the East, keeper of air, we invoke the elements and the spirits of air to join us now. She of 1,000 spells, she of 1,000 names, she whose mirror image exists within countless, if not hundreds, of other deities, her essence, the mother, the wisdom within her, the spiritual knowledge, the alchemist within her, the whisper in the wind, Her dark wings, her ability to shapeshift is your ability to shapeshift. She reminds you that your power is within the shapeshifter, and the shapeshifter within you. It will still look like you. Yet in some times of your life, you will be the coyote, the misunderstood trickster, the one who meets all challenges head on. People will hunt them. People will seek to murder them for just surviving. People will seek them, see them as the trickster, when the trickster is the energy of their own mind, and yet they continue to thrive, they continue to live, and they teach us so much because they bring us to the medicine of the wolf. You will embody in your lifetime the coyote and the wolf. You will embody the condor and the eagle, the masculine and the feminine. Your black wings will sprout forth from your shoulders. They will be part of your power, just as your familiars will. The raven and the dove, the medicine of the feminine, the serpent, all familiars who will be part of your guide in your transformational shape-shifting. You will still be you, yet embodying an aspect that possibly has been diminished or demonized in our culture. She is here to remind you there's power and purpose in each. There's love and there's beauty in each. There is shadow and there is light in each. She is the mother that will hold you, while Hecate is the mother who will show you both shadow and light. This deity will teach you to transform into each version of you with grace. Bless us as we call your name, Isis, 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 Isis. Guardian of the southeast, keeper of sovereignty, she who sings the divine mother's song, she who awakens the throat, the manifestation tool of air and vibrational frequency that exists within all. She awakens the force of manifestation through the sound of your voice. She awakens the healer within your voice. She is the part of you that knows you are the raven and you are the dove. You're spiraling into form every time you create a boundary for yourself and step outside of this constructs that humanity has set in place. She reminds you that what you give power to has power. She reminds you that this journey is yours, that it is not selfish to focus on you, that it is needed for you to love you. She reminds us that as the witches that we are, the healing journey requires self-love and connection to the Divine Mother of all life. She says, step and speak and be the power that exists within you. Bless us as we call your name, Rhiannon, 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 Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, keeper of fire, I invoke the elements and the spirits of fire to join us now. Queen of the Fae, she who knows love is the way. She who invokes the spiciness of rage and anger, the empowerment of anger to burst forward, carving a pathway for you to heal through the gentle, soft touch, the warming ability that the fire has to create a warm bath, a warm summer breeze. She reminds you of the power of the fire, both in its fury and its passion. She reminds you that this fire creates a passion for life, a passion for change that must happen at the turning of ages, that must happen for our soul to experience what it intended to. Bless us as we call your name. Anya, 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 Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mystery, we invoke she whose name has been stolen by religious figures, religious books, lied about, misjudged, and yet she chose to weave the truth of who she was, unafraid, walking through the recesses, calling forth her daughters, the lineage of the rose, the priestess within you. She is the passion who awakens the fire and the water within you to alchemize. She is the one who builds the elemental connections that happen behind your eyes and within your throat, that moves from you as your energy. It needs no casting of spells. She reminds us that a mere glance, a gazing in the eyes of evil, unafraid, embodied by all elements, will cast out these lower level evil entities and energies. This is your highest expression. Bless us as we call your name. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, I invoke the elements and the spirits of water to join us now. Keeper of the cauldron, keeper of alchemy, mother of the craft, goddess, witch. She steps forward today, reminding you the healing comes. The high priestess within you, the goddess within you, will be born when you alchemize your pain into purpose. When you turn the swamp into a flowing creek. When you take an empty cauldron, like the empty space of your womb, and through the chaos of uprooting and digging dirt up from the earth, all things are born in this reality. Do not fear the uprooting of the earth. Do not fear bringing fire to the water. Do not fear bringing the fire to your wounds. Do not fear bringing your love to your wounds. And do not fear wrapping your arms around yourself and loving yourself. more than anyone else. Bless us as we call your name. Caradwin, 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 Caradwin. Guardian of the Northwest, weaver of our sacred circle, queen of witches, daughter of Diana, daughter of the moon, goddess of the oppressed, mentor of witches, weaving our sacred circle sealed this day for protection and empowerment. Bless us as we call your name. Aradia, 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 Aradia. From beneath us, we invoke the loving presence of our Earth Mother, Gaia, Pachamama, whatever you call her. We call her spirit, her essence forth to connect with the soles of our feet and the flesh of our body. We become one as we surrender to her rising embrace. We become whole in our physical body, no longer willing to stay up in the head, floating out when we are connected to her. We bring everything down and in, and she recycles and transforms all pain and suffering into new, clean, pure energy. She is always here to turn night to day, and the same within your physical body. She will remind you that you will have trees and flowers grow upon you and within your lifetime. But also there will be winters, but she will never leave you alone. She will always provide for you. And we call her forth to anchor this circle from below. We call forth the ancestors, the indigenous that walked the land where each individual who's casting this sacred circle together today is. We call the indigenous forth that were empowered. We call the indigenous forth that were unempowered, that suffered at the hands of others. We call you forth, those indigenous that walk this land before us in a good way, whose bones and flesh have returned to the earth. We call forth the ancestors from each individual in their individual sovereign circle, who walk with them in a good way, whose blood and bones have returned to the earth. We call forth your hopes, dreams, and wishes for humanity that assist us in a good way. We invite your healing to happen through us, alongside us, with us. 7 generations forward and back. We call forth the Fae, the elementals, the gnomes, the keepers of the realms in between that guard and protect the Earth Mother. We call you forth and honor you with love, grace, milk, and honey. From above us, we call forth and invoke the star brothers and sisters, the planetary energies, the maps of our soul, the seed of our soul's first homes. Call forth those star brothers and sisters who have only the best intention for us to watch over and hold space from above. And bringing your hands to your heart, your left first, your right over the left. We call forth the child from within the recesses of your heart and the deepest parts of your mind to step forward in safety as the creative genius, the creative innocence that has survived everything alongside you, with you, the part of you that has been untouched, unharmed, holds the magic and the wisdom that you were born onto this planet with. We call you forth with love, safety, and grace, and promise to honor you, to love you, and to protect you. We call forth the I am presence of each individual in their individual sovereign circle. We collectively do this individually. Our I am presence steps forward, connected to our higher self, connected to our oversoul, connected to our soul, connected directly to Source. We find ourselves here at the center of our being, in the center of this sacred, sovereign circle of power and protection. We ask that this circle will remain sealed until we each lie our heads down to sleep, when the circle will be open but never broken and integrated and embodied in the week to come. As we sit here in the center of this circle, we lift ourselves well connected to the earth and remaining connected to the earth. We open up this circle up, up, up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, where divine knowing and miracles take place, while in the center of this sacred circle, the wisdom that you need to heal, to move forward in the next chapter of your journey with the highest perspective, will pour into you. The aha moments will pour into you. What needs to happen next will pour into you, and your feet will be firmly anchored on the ground. When the circle opens and is never broken, you will begin taking the embodied action steps of the highest timeline that you embodied on this day. We integrate to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness with this next breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. I now cast this sacred circle sealed, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. This circle is now sealed. It is done, it is done, it is done, and so it is. Blessed be. Breathing in. Breathing out. Taking a moment here with your eyes closed, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Circling your head, bringing your chin to your chest, to the left shoulder, back to your chest, to the right shoulder. Doing this a few times. Bringing your hands together at heart center as we did at the beginning. As you inhale, press your hands up. Listen carefully. Press your hands up as you inhale. As you exhale, bring those hands right back down to your heart. Bring them down to your lap. Sweep them out to the side, palms up. Inhale, sweep the energy up. Gathering all the light and love that this circle just created around you. Bring the hands together at the top. Exhale, anchor that energy at your heart. Bring it right down to your lap. Bring your hands out to the side. Inhale, sweeping your arms up. Sweeping that energy into your body. And bring the hands as you exhale down to your heart. Final exhale down to your lap. Sweep the arms out, palms up. Inhale. Hands come together at the top. And then exhale, hands together all the way to the heart. Pause here. Inhale, bringing a smile to your lips. As you exhale, blink your eyes open, coming back into this time and space, back here. This is the way we can use technology in a good way, right? We're coming onto TikTok, we're casting a circle together, we're filling ourselves up with spiritual wisdom. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for all of you who stay on here and listen to me talk for hours. Thank you for the gifts that you send me, and thank you for all your comments and questions and being here. I know today was one of those days I wasn't seeing a lot of the questions because I was just talking and Spirit was just pouring through me with messages. So if you have any questions before I go today, share them in the comments. I love seeing everybody sharing the colors that they've seen. And thank you for all your thank yous, and thank you for the gifts, every single one of you, for following along in my journey. Again, if you have any questions that maybe you asked during the live that I didn't see, you can go ahead and ask them now, and I'll try to answer them before I go. I'm seeing people saw a lot of green today, pink, blue. Thank you for being here. Heart activation. I love that. Thank you to Marjorie for energetically protecting the space, and any other of my moderators who help. I love you all so much, from my coven, Erin, Gingy, Haley. I know there's so many of you who are fiercely protective of me, and I so appreciate that, because opening myself up on here is definitely an energetic big thing. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of the gifts you're sending me right now. Thank you. You are part of my community. You know, we have followers on social media, but I wish it said community, not followers. Thank you, Margie. Thank you, Kate. You've seen yellow and green and had chills the whole time. I love that for you. I go live every Sunday around 10:30. It's been lately, 10:30, right around there, Arizona time. So you feel so anchored. I love that. Beautiful. Hi, Karya. I came in at the end and saw green in my mind. Beautiful. Oh, Margie's sending big love to all her Coven sisters. If you're a Coven sister, type in the chat, Coven sister. I want to see all who's here. Sometimes I don't know who's in the live because I won't recognize your username and your actual name, but we have a virtual Coven if any of you women want to join. It's Nevaeh, you're coming to Salem, right? Coven sister, Max Joy, hi, blessed be, sister. What 2 tarot cards did you see, Violet? I've been working with tarot cards a lot lately, so I'm curious to hear. Yes, I can't wait to see you in Salem. You guys, we're going to be going to Salem in 8 weeks. It's so close. I'm so excited for that retreat. And if anyone wants to join us in Sedona in October, now is the time to sign up. Don't delay. Usually every year we have a waiting list and people are like, dang it, I thought about signing up at the beginning of the year. I didn't. And you just got your plane tickets. Awesome. Haley's here as a Coven sister. I know Erin was here earlier. She must not be here now. But I also have Witch School, and I was talking about the crystals. You guys, these are the gorgeous rings, and then this black one are what I got. Sorry, that finger was popping out. That pinky does that when I drink tea too. So all the rings up to this one, all these, and this one are from Enchanting Earth Co. You guys have got to go follow her on TikTok and IG, and she does lives, and so you don't have to go to her store in Sedona. You can hop on one of her lives or go to her website and purchase her crystals. And like I said, she's so generous. If you're coming to Sedona like Marjorie, you will get to see her store in real life. I know you're gonna love it. Hi, Gina. I didn't know you were here. Gina is a Coven sister as well. Blessed be. She's not always in the Spaces app, but she is part of our Coven. Thank you for the gifts. Blessed be. You couldn't see them clearly. Can you see them now? So the one is a cat head. I should turn it this way. See, this is a garnet. That's a cat head. And that one has the moons on the side, the raven and the pentacle. Isn't that so cute? And those are just simple, but they all squeeze closed. They are all genuine crystals, the real deal. And then I got this one. It's like looks black, but it's deep green. I was so in love with that. Happy birthday. I've seen there's a few people saying it's your birthday. Happy solar return to everyone. I'm terrible at remembering people's birthday. My beautiful sister Margot, who holds Practical Magic Retreat with me, it was her birthday this week. Rainbow Obsidian. I don't think this is Rainbow Obsidian. These are all stones I'm not familiar with, so I'm gonna have to like, other than garnet, I know garnet, but I'm gonna have to sit and like research them to even remember their names. All right, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions for me, so I'm gonna say goodbye. But thank you everyone for being here. If you don't, it's not labradorite, no. Happy birthday, Karya. Thank you for being here, Haley. Thank you, Gina. I hope all's going well, sister. And thank you, Marjorie, for keeping the space safe. And thank you, everybody, for your gifts. I appreciate it so much. Go look at my retreat. It is time to sign up and join us, because I promise you, when you see everything we're going to be doing in Salem, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to sign up. And I also trust that everyone that's meant to be there will be there with us in Sedona. Thank you, Marjorie. I hope you get some rest too, sister, and continue healing and getting better. So much love to my community here. I'll see you next Sunday. And don't forget, so much love to my community here. I'll see you next Sunday. And don't forget, that was weird. So go check out Ritual Flower and for the broom, and then Enchanting Earth Co for the crystals. Love you all. Blessed be.